I'm doing this without my glasses, so I need to make my list a little easier to read.
All right.
Because I'm blind! Cool.
All right. So while we're waiting to get started, happy Free Comic Book Day!
Happy Free Comic Book Day. Yes, I have my free comic books right here, actually.
I have mine over there because I haven't. The ones that I haven't read yet are over there, and I've already put them into my box because I didn't think to have them ready. So.
Gotcha. Well, I didn't think to have them. I just noticed as you said that they were right next there. So I was like, no, they're right here.
So, Josh, what free comic books did you get?
Okay, a little preview thing. Well, even though I am probably not going to follow any of the Civil War II stuff, just on principle, I did pick up the Free Comic Book Day Civil War #2, which I guess is basically their kind of intro, a little free intro thing, just to kind of see what it is. The cover art's pretty good, is fairly good. The interior art is really good as well. Wow, oh, I just opened this, and there's a picture of Rhodey and Carol kissing. It's fun. I didn't know they were a thing.
Oh.
So
neither did I.
Learn something new every day.
I'm not really reading much Marvel right now.
Yeah, I'm not reading a whole lot of Marvel, and not a lot of that. I also picked up the Steve Rogers Captain America with the new shield. I'm still not completely sold on the new shield. I dig the triangular design. It's kind of like they just said, well, let's do a combination. Let's try to figure out how to make the classic triangle and the circle and put them together somehow. I don't think it really works, but that's just my opinion. I haven't read the book yet either, so we'll see. I had to pick up Serenity. Anything Firefly, I've got to pick it up, and so it's another, and it's got a Hellboy backup story, so that's kind of interesting. They didn't want to put out a single story. Let's see.
I read the Serenity. That one was really good. If you haven't read it already,
I haven't read any of them yet. So
yeah.
Serenity. I mean, it's. I think. Let's see. They usually just, if not Joss, somebody from the Whedon, family is still on it. And this says right here, executive producer Joss Whedon. So Joss is involved with everything that they do, Firefly, Serenity related, which means that they tend to maintain their quality over time, which is nice. One I'm not sure about that I'm going to see if it's any good, but I'm a big fan of the video games, is Assassin's Creed. Like I said, I'm a big fan of the video games. Unity, sadly say, it was not that great, and I haven't played Syndicate, but the world is a lot of fun. So sorry, the little thing popped up here for me.
I did not pick up.
I'm going to check out Assassin's Creed at least to see what new stories that they're telling, because they have a lot of deep history and stuff like that. What did you say?
Yeah, I was just saying that I didn't see that book at the table at Ultimate, so I didn't pick it up.
Yeah, I went to a couple stores today, and I saw a couple of places that had. Sometimes I'd see things at one place that wasn't at another place, maybe because they just getting taken, they ran out really quick. That does happen, especially on Free Comic Book Day, where people just come in and they'll take a lot of a specific thing that's really popular. And the one I'm really excited about for Free Comic Book Day was this, which is Spectrum, which, for those of you who are not familiar with it, is based on the Con Man web series done by Alan Tudyk, and so which is fun because it's about a guy who's an actor who was on a TV show, And the TV show that guy was on was called Spectrum. So this is a comic book this is a fictional comic book about a fictional TV show within a TV show. So it's a lot of fun, and of course anyone who looks at the art, anyone who's like a Firefly fan will recognize what appears to be Nathan Fillion. He's in this book as well. He and Alan worked on this together. So that's the one I'm most excited to kind of get in there and read and kind of see what's going on with that. And especially because I've seen Alan at a couple cons since I moved out to Los Angeles, and he talks about he loves working on this project so much. So a lot of good things going on.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I haven't read it yet.
What about you?
Well, I got everything you got except for the Assassin's Creed book. I also picked up the Boom Studios. I don't have it. It's all the way. Hold up. I'm just gonna grab it real quick. Hold up.
Yeah, step away. Grab it real quick. Yeah.
All right. So, first up, I picked up the Boom Studios 2016 Summer Blast. This is basically a sampling of a little bit of everything that Boom has going on. Mouse Guard is in here. Lumberjanes, Adventure Time, pretty much a little bit of everything that Boom is doing. I picked it up because I've heard really good things about Lumberjanes, and I've been wanting to check out the series, so I figured that'd be a good little sampler. Also, Spectrum. These I picked up basically because they were there, and I figured why not. This is Bongo Comics.
Put it all and put it in your bag. Yeah.
Yeah. This is, of course, this is Simpsons, so right there, and all the other, how am I forgetting his name right now? Creator of Simpsons and Futurama.
I don't know that I actually know his name, so I can't help you out.
Yeah. And Sonic Simple. I have a friend who's super into Sonic comics. Outside of that, picked up Steve Rogers, Captain America. I really liked the story. Sharon Carter's in it, and it's great to see her in comics. I don't feel like we've seen her in a while. Granted, haven't been reading Marvel, so. Yeah. And we see both Steve Rogers, Captain America, Sam Wilson, Captain America, and the new Falcon. So we've got two Americas and a Falcon. So
okay,
Captain America, Captain Falcon. Yeah, that's one of the developments. Also picked up I'm trying to think of what else. Of course, Valiant fan. I picked up the Valiant 2016 preview. Which was awesome. It has a short story featuring Rye and sort of to prep for 4001. Picked up, and it also has previews for and Bloodshot Island and Archer and Armstrong, so it's a pretty good little sampler thing. Let's see, what else did I get?
I did see the Valiant sampler, and I knew you would be picking that up. So
yeah. Let's see. Let me go to. IDW put out their new ROM Space Knight Zero, which was awesome. It was, oh my god, I was surprised. I was not sure what was going to happen with ROM going into it because a lot of the ROM stuff is owned by Marvel.
Right.
But yeah, like I thought, and apparently it was thought that Marvel owned the rights to the name Dire Wraith, which was ROM's enemies. But apparently they don't. They might own like the type of Dire Wraith that they made, but the word Dire Wraith and the Dire Wraiths show up in this book, which was a big thing because I was expecting Rom to fight some new alien menace, and it was basically just going to be Rom Space Knight. But no, he fought the Dire Wraiths, and it's a really good origin issue, really great. Picked up Serenity, which was really good, had a really good story. I'm trying to think else that might have actually been it. Yeah, so pretty much aside from what you picked up, Valiant and ROM were the big things. I saw DC had a superhero girl, but I left that for the kids. There were a lot of kids at Ultimate, and I was really surprised by that, and it was actually kind of awesome to just see all these little kids just so excited about comics. And it's like, yes, more comic fans. We need more.
Absolutely.
Welcome, youngling. Welcome, youngling.
No, the only thing I'll say is that the kids who are in strollers, maybe you wait another year before you
Yeah.
yeah. Because I went to a couple stores and there were parents there with their kids in strollers getting comic books, and a lot of places also have limits on the amount of books that you can pick up on Free Comic Book Day. So a lot of parents, I think, bring their kids so that they can get more free comics. So I saw that a couple times where they were trying to divvy it up and say, okay, you get these 5 comics, and then you get these 5 comics, and then I'll get these 5 comics, and that way we'll have 15 different comics. And there was a kid saying, I don't want that one. Yes, but just get it. Just get that one. But let's, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, they're free comics.
Yeah.
That's what it is. And and they're obviously investing in getting their kids in comics, so it's all good. I would just say, let's leave the strollers at home, folks. And if a kid can't walk around on his own, carry him. Just do it.
Yeah. One other thing that I want to show off that I got was my was doing a 50% off of graphic novels.
Mm-hmm.
So another Valiant pickup, Armor Hunters Deluxe Edition. This is the big collection of Valiant summer 2014 event. Usually retails for $50. I got it for $28 after tax.
Nice.
But I wish I had noticed something before I bought it. Let's see if I can show this off. It's kind of folded in right here.
Yeah.
That's because if you look, it's actually got a slight printing error. This page is shifted, in the printing process. So this is a print. So this book had a printing error. From what I've looked through, it's nothing too egregious. It's basically just something slipped. So the panels are kind of off center for a good chunk of the book, but it's corrected in later stuff. It's just something that, I open it up and I see all these pages folded in to keep it put on the shelf, and then I fold it out and I'm like, wish I had known about that. So yeah, but it's still it's cheaper than you can even get it on Amazon. It's going for Amazon $32, and I got it for $28. So that's still a deal. I'll take it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's like a lot of places. They'll give you things that have been damaged at a reduced price. So they gotta sell it.
Yeah.
Once it's been printed, they gotta sell it. We're just trying to figure out how can we make a little bit of money back on this. So
okay, and I have a phone call. So Josh, why don't you start talking about something, be it Civil War or not Civil War?
Start talking about something. Okay. Wow. Thanks for putting me on the spot. All right. So just to go ahead and let anyone who is watching know, I can't see if there's people watching or not, but I'm assuming somebody is watching. This is going to be a discussion that we do about Civil War, the movie that just came out. We saw it a couple of days ago. Me and Daniel both did. Him on the East Coast, me on the West Coast. So basically, this will be a major discussion about that, and there will be spoilers. So this is your only spoiler warning you get, guys. After this, it's not our fault. It's your fault for continuing to watch. Once we, so that's the thing. Spoiler warning right here, right now. Okay? So this is your only spoiler warning.
Yes. Spoilers from here on out. Let's type it into the chat here. movies. Yeah, and I did include in the title that there would be spoilers.
Yeah,
all right.
people just don't want to listen sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So where do we should we go by plot or just talk about your notes? Because I know you have notes. I've got many.
First off, I have a question. Did you see it in regular or 3D?
Regular.
Regular? Okay.
Regular.
I saw it in 3D. So
yeah, I missed tickets for the IMAX, and this is just me. I'm not gonna see something unless it's in 3D, unless it's IMAX.
True. Yeah. I think it was the very first showing for me was 3D, and I think that's the only reason I did 3D. So, and I'm over here on the West Coast, and the AMC's over here are kind of weird because you got to get assigned seating. So that was fun. But it was weird because my theater, I had people directly to my right, and then all the way, and then all the seats on my left were empty. So.
And you couldn't just move over after the fact?
I'm sure I could have. I didn't, and I think people ended up coming in late that ended up sitting there. So that's why I didn't move. But it was one of those weird things. I was the first one there, and at the theater, and the second guy to show up in the theater was the guy who was sitting right next to me. And it's like 2 people in the whole theater, and we were sitting next to each other. So that's one of those weird things. I don't know if that's everywhere on the East Coast or if that's just what AMC is doing over here. But kind of weird. Yeah. So, where do you want to start for Civil War? I mean, I feel like it's, chances are good we just start at the beginning. The most obvious place to start.
I guess we can just go right in for the with the beginning. Crossbones did not. I'm surprised, honestly. I thought he was going to be bigger than he did.
Yeah, I think it was mostly it was a way of connecting it back to, because that's the thing the Russo brothers have said from the beginning. This is really supposed to be a Captain America movie, and it's supposed to really mostly stand with the Captain America movies. So, and I thought they did a really good job making this film a follow-up to Winter Soldier, rather than it's a follow-up to Avengers. Now, yes, there are things in Avengers that definitely are a major effect. The whole Sokovia Accord, the incident in Sokovia and everything with Ultron obviously has a major impact on the plot. And the fact that, we have certain, people running around also from that. But it is tonally and plot point-wise a direct follow-up. And, you see that how much is focused on Bucky and how much is focused on, they start focusing on Crossbones and trying to get him and everything like that. And then they immediately move the Sokovia Accords into tracking down Bucky, figuring out his past and everything like that. And even then they brought back, Bucky and that whole plot line, and then they brought it back to Sokovia at the very end with why Zemo's doing this. So I thought that was really well done of making it a follow-up to both those films.
Yeah, I was just like, I guess I was just expecting Crossbones to maybe be more of a guy working for Zemo. But granted, that's also when I thought Zemo was going to be not a random Sokovia soldier.
Yeah, Zemo, it feels very much with Zemo like they called him Zemo just so they had a connection to the comic books.
I think
that was it would have been more interesting if they had created a brand new villain in this guy. Yeah. Let's face it, Phil Coulson was the breakout star of Iron Man and the Iron Man franchise. They
didn't try to find some obscure.
So,
they didn't try to find some obscure SHIELD agent to use. Just said, he just needs to be a random agent of Phil Coulson. Yeah, boom.
Exactly. And so, it felt a little forced. A couple things felt a little forced in this movie. I will say that. And the calling him Zemo, did feel very forced. You know, especially because he never dons any sort of costume at all. You know, there's no necessarily, you know, he doesn't pick up a sword, and that's his, like, Zemo's like a fencer and has a costume and everything like that in the comic books. There's nothing that connects him to the Zemo in the comics. Nothing, other than the fact that he is a villain against
he
Captain
fights
America.
Captain America.
He's a villain in the
That's
Captain America story. That's it. And let's face it, you could use any money for that.
Yeah.
So that being said, I really liked his character. What, you know, they, you know, how they did that and everything. And, you know, you don't understand why he's doing this. You for the majority of the film, and I love that twist of, you think he's some super secret agent gonna grab these super soldier Bucky, you know, lookalikes, and take them and use them to cause all sorts of mass hysteria. And it's like, no, I actually wanted to find them so I could kill them.
Yeah, and that thing, I thought that was going to be this movie's version of the Masters of Evil. That's what I was expecting. Because he was basically going to get these guys, recruit them, and that would be the quote-unquote Masters of Evil, or at least the first incarnation.
Yeah, that would have been interesting if they had done it that way. It was one of those, I think it was the right way to go, though, because then you would have been introducing 5 more new characters. There would have been a whole another brawl and everything like that, and we really didn't need a huge fight with, you know, multi-person fight after what we got at the airport. We really just needed that one-on-two fight that we got, and you know, and I have some issues with that whole end sequence, but we'll get to that a little later. But going back to where we originally started with Crossbones and stuff like that, I thought it was a natural thing to follow that up, to follow up Winter Soldier with you introducing that and everything like that. And, you know, very much in how I thought, you know, they did a really good job of going straight from Avengers, where they ended with Steve in the first Captain America, and going into the Avengers. They pick up with him, you know, he's not back in the thick of it and everything like that. So I thought it was a really good way of transitioning and reminding you that, hey, this is still happening. They're still looking for Bucky. They're still trying to find Rumlow. They're still dealing with the aftermath of that, even though it's, what, 2 years later?
Yeah, roughly.
So, and you know, it was nice. I got to say that whole sequence. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was
stepping away.
Grabbing my phone.
Gotcha. And I got to say that whole I love that whole sequence. It definitely reminded me of the beginning of Winter Soldier, when they're doing the mission on the boat. Because you know, they start off very covert and everything like that, you know, and I love that they're kind of teaching Wanda, kind of has some covert, you know, things. She's sitting there and then she's like, oh yeah, dude. They're just talking on their radio. I was like, no big deal.
Watching your back should be secure. Anyone ever tell you you're a little paranoid? No. Why? Did someone say something?
Yeah,
love that.
Was great. But and then Wanda's
that thing, the Russos
in my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Russos have really. Yeah, it's one of those things. The Russos have really shown that they can nail that same kind of. It's not as Whedon-esque, like, but they still nail that kind of witty, snappy. That between characters.
Yeah, that snappy team dynamic, especially with team dynamics between you know, chatter between teammates and stuff like that. That's great. They also brought back, I'm guessing, I didn't look at the credits to see if it's the same guy, but they brought back most likely the same fight coordinator, and it shows.
Oh yeah.
The Winter Soldier fights were absolutely phenomenal. And I think the Civil War fights, especially Cap's hand-to-hand combat stuff, you know, just the gritty ones, not this big. I mean, once you get to the big superhero fight, it's a big superhero fight. But the stuff when they're in Africa and it's fists and shields and guns and stuff like that. The way I absolutely love it. If you have and you've watched the special features for Winter Soldier, I think it's on special features for Winter Soldier anyway. But they talk about how the Steve Rogers style of fighting is actually based on a martial arts style invented by Bruce Lee, where you're not just using your hands or your elbows and your feet as your contact points. You're using your entire body to really get in there. And you use your weight, your opponent's weight. You use everything, environment and everything to your advantage. And I love that. That basically makes it where anything, even Cap's environment, is a weapon. And you see that in the elevator fight in Winter Soldier, I think, where he's in this really confined space, but he's able to kick everybody's ass because he just knows how to even use the environment. So that was another great thing about that Afro scene and their fight with Crossbones.
Yeah. All right. And of course, the big thing is when Wanda, tries to contain that explosion and, isn't in full control.
Yeah, it doesn't quite work. And they end up blowing the side of the building up.
That's of course what kicks off the.
Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah, that's what kicks off, it seems, the need for the Sokovia Accords, which is something we didn't get in the trailers. So a lot of a lot of people said, talking with the trailers and stuff like that, it's like, look, it's not that everybody needs to be reined in, it's that Tony needs to be reined in, plain and simple.
Yeah.
And
it's done a lot better.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's done a lot better than what happened in the comics, and of course I have the comic here, because this really focuses it on the Avengers, because that's the thing, because in the comics it's what the New Warriors, I think,
the New Warriors,
Speedball, and that whole thing, and which blow like a school. And I feel like, I feel like the way that then translated to like stuff like the mother that comes up and like slaps Tony and is all like, "You get my son." Yeah. That I feel like, okay, one, Tony Stark had nothing to do with that. I'm like, I understand that you're grieving and you're angry, but all that. And I feel like that's another thing that worked better in the movie was that mother scene, because she didn't, go approach him on the stage and try to make a big spectacle out of it in front of everyone. She just approached him and just and was very personal. It wasn't like a big, "I'm gonna embarrass you, Mr. Stark," kind of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I somewhat feel like that the character of Miriam was kind of thrown in there, just to, in my opinion, have Miriam from the comic show up in the movie. So, and that's a personal opinion. I do understand why she was there. I think it was kind of that was another moment though I thought was a little forced, and everything. But I do agree. The thing also is that ultimately the Civil War in the comics ends up being a reaction to a single event, which is the Stanford incident in Stanford, Connecticut. The Sokovia Accords are very much a reaction to multiple events. So it's been a building process. It's really not this one incident with Wanda. That's what gets Wakanda involved, is because it was these Wakandas. But it's ultimately it's a number of different incidences where every time the Avengers show up, there is catastrophe to follow. I will say this: I'm guarantee you, more people would have died if that explosion hadn't gone off on the ground right next to Cap. One Cap would have been gone, And there would have been a whole lot of other. I guarantee you casualties, because I think what the movie said there was 11 people killed.
Yes.
Is that what they said? So 11 people killed versus, I guarantee you, 30 to 40 people in that marketplace killed by that bomb. Because that bomb looked like it probably could have brought down that building if it had gone off at street level. So then you've got that whole building coming down as well. So ultimately, Wanda, while you hate to talk about human casualty is numbers, because one life is too many, but at the same time, the numbers do matter. And so the fact is, in her attempt to get that explosion out, to get it away from both them and civilians, ultimately, was the right choice. And I did think that was a very unfairly leveled at her. But that happens in everyday life.
Yeah,
so that's very, very realistic in that, someone did the right thing. It didn't quite work, and they're going to get blamed for it. But even though they did the right thing, they really did the only option that was available.
Yeah. Yeah, and Steve comforts her and says, and I think approaches her in that way, because Steve is a soldier, and as much as he doesn't want to kill people, there's that line in Winter Soldier where he says, we compromised and we did things we weren't proud of, but we did it so people could be free. And that's the thing. So Steve clearly, he understands that there are times that there are times where things don't go right and people get hurt.
Yeah.
It's in who you do save and all that.
Yeah.
And that was, and I thought that was a really good scene with and Wanda, especially as they're presenting Cap as, the experienced leader and Wanda as the new member. And of course, it's intercut. Yeah, and of course, it's intercut by Vision walking through a wall, and that whole scene that was great.
That is the only thing that really kind of bugged me, though. Unfortunately, was that ultimately the team that's in that first sequence that's in Africa, is for the most part what ends up being Team Cap later on, but there's two other Avengers. Or at least three other Avengers who are still on, kind of involved, but aren't on that mission for some reason, which is Vision and War Machine and Tony Stark and Iron Man. So, and I think Iron Man said he was trying to not to do less Iron Man-y things. Tony's, he kind of came up with that point about, for him and Pepper, he's trying to be less Iron Man and more just Tony.
Yeah, and I'm glad they addressed that, because that was always something that seemed kind of weird to me with Iron Man 3. Was okay, Tony blows up all suits, which honestly, that's kind of a waste, dude. But whatever. All right, so he blows up all his suits as this big romantic gesture, and then he gets the arc reactor taken out of his chest, so that he doesn't have to be Iron Man anymore. Smash cut to Age of Ultron, and he's flying around being Iron Man with.
But I still think War Machine and Vision should have been on that mission, and I don't understand why they weren't. Because both of them, maybe War Machine would have had too much firepower to really be effective and not escalate the situation. But Vision, his phasing abilities would have been an absolute boon to them on this mission. And I don't understand why neither of them, because that's the thing. Vision, we don't see him doing any Avenger stuff until the airport. He's just kind of hanging out at the compound.
I do have a theory about that. I think there might have been a deleted, from the fact that he's just chilling in normal dude clothes. I almost wonder if there was a deleted scene or something that sort of basically said, Vision doesn't really go on missions because he's a robot and people like freak out at seeing him and all that. But that's just a theory. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, I think the reason they put him in that in normal clothes was probably to save on CG budget. That way.
Also, because it looks cool.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, it's like if we can
cool in a dorky way
and not have him in full 3D prosthetic the entire time we see him, it might behoove us to do that. And one, it means that those short little scenes where you don't have a lot of stuff, it's just mostly dialogue and exposition kind of stuff. You don't have to worry too much about your setup and stuff like that from a filmmaking perspective. And having to having to have Vision spend however long getting his stuff done just because you need to punch out a quick scene here. So that's filmmaking wise why they probably didn't had him in normal clothes. That's what I think anyway. But
probably, yeah.
So it still doesn't make a whole lot of sense why he's not on that mission, though, in my opinion.
Yeah. So. All right. So then General Ross shows up. We haven't seen him in a while because, and I'm a little, and like one of the things that I noticed about that scene was I'm surprised he doesn't, like, I just feel like I was surprised there wasn't more of a Ross focusing on the fact that Banner is gone, like, and it has gone missing, because I feel like that would be something that Thunderbolt Ross would probably, he'd be a little concerned about. But now he's Secretary of State, apparently.
Yeah, he's Secretary of State now, apparently. He does bring up, he's like, do you know where Thor and Banner are right now? And he's probably not that... Thor... He really doesn't care about Thor. Thor is also not present at this meeting, so he's going to lump Thor and Hulk together. It does, when he does say that, it is him saying, "Look, where's Banner?" That's ultimately what he's saying. But because that's the thing, he understands and he has understood from the very get-go the threat that Banner poses. And see, now he's taking that those green colored glasses instead of rose colored glasses, green colored glasses, and he's seeing the entire Avengers that way. He really is.
Which granted, he is not of the Earth. He comes and goes. He can, like, he is not bound by even an American citizen, let alone, or an Earth citizen, let alone American citizen. So I mean, I don't think there's really much you can even do about Thor, Ross.
Yeah, you can't. And I feel like it was always only one of those things he lumped that together, just to say, where are these guys? They're not here. You don't know where they are. And really, it was just a barb at Steve to say, look, you're not in control here. Which is what Ross has been about with the Hulk and forever, is control. He wants to control it and everything like that. Of course, the irony is that I was told in ROTC that whatever when you're in a situation, control is an illusion. That's what I was told. You never have control of a situation. You have the illusion of control. So I think that's funny that him as a general and military man is so obsessed with controlling things. But that is what it is.
Well, as General rises up, he's going to lose his connection with the Earth a little, as he gets higher up the stairs, farther from the ground.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
So I like that right after. I like that right after they have this whole conversation with the Sokovia Accords and stuff like that. You see them. It's not just we're being told this and everything like that. They are openly amongst themselves discussing whether this is something they're going to do or not, whether they're going to sign or not. So that's the thing. There is a a modicum of choice, you know, and that this is not necessarily completely being forced on them. That, you know, it's one of those
just
things
that if you don't sign, you can't be an vendor. They will shut you down.
Right, exactly. And, you know, the idea that if, you know, and I guess Tony's big thing is if we don't do this, then they're going to step in and they're going to take over completely. Like, we can maintain, like they keep talking about the idea of having one hand on the wheel. They can still steer. But if they don't take this, well, somebody's going to take the wheel away from them completely.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And of course,
position in that aspect. I do. I really understand the pro signage people. I do.
That's one of the great things about the movie is it made that discussion really. It did not try to. One thing I was afraid that was going to happen, because this is Captain America: Civil War. I was very afraid that it would be Cap is Iron Man is wrong. But no, they did not play that. And even by the end, there's no wrong or right side. It is just a case of, here's one stance, here's the other. You get to decide. That's one of the great things. That's one of the best things about the movie.
And the discussion may have gone on further, and they may have even been able to find some sort of middle ground to stand on if what happened in Vienna hadn't happened. If, you know, that if everything that happened hadn't happened right then and right there at the Accords, things might have gone a little smoother, and they might have found some sort of compromise. But before we get to that, I want to go to the very next scene right after they're sitting there discussing things, which is the funeral of Peggy Carter.
And I was weeping. I was like, no, not Peggy.
Yeah, based on where we saw her 2 years ago in Captain America, in the last Captain America film, it seemed like a fairly natural progression. So I wasn't surprised by it. I also knew they had to get Sharon in there somewhere. So yeah. I was.
And this is where they revealed her last name.
Saw that coming. I was really happy when Sharon showed up, because I really love Sharon. I think she's an amazing character. Yeah. Emily Van Camp, I remember first seeing her in Everwood, which was not a great show in my opinion, but she was really good in it. And then I really dug the first couple seasons of Revenge as well. And when Revenge got canceled, I was really hoping that meant that Emily Van Camp as Sharon Carter was going to start showing up maybe in S.H.I.E.L.D. Didn't happen, but I was hoping. So the fact that we got so much more Sharon Carter in this was a delight. And finally, there's that reveal of, oh wait, you're actually related to Peggy.
Yeah.
Which you know.
Which
I love. There's that.
I was in the.
There's Falcon sitting there. He's like, hey, Steve, look up, look at this, because it's like, oh wow, this is interesting.
Yeah. And there was, like, right behind me, like, either right behind me or 2 rows back, like, when they finally had their, I heard this one dude remark, dude, isn't that his girlfriend's granddaughter? And I'm like, and then the other guy corrected him, I'm like, no, she said it was his niece. Oh, okay, fine. Okay. Like, oh, okay. But it was still, it was one of those things. Yeah. I guess you do have that little.
Yeah. Well, and of course, I think the interesting thing is that too, because she mentions in her speech that, you know, they called her Aunt Peg. However, the interesting thing is it's, again, spoilers for Agent Carter, the 2nd season. If you haven't watched that, stop right now or mute your volume until, I don't know, next 5 minutes. But we see Peggy Carter's brother in Agent Carter season 2, because we see flashbacks to the war and stuff like that. And her brother Michael dies in combat. So it's a little confusing whether she had maybe another brother or if he already had a family, because I'm pretty sure he didn't have a family already. As far as where this
had a younger sibling
came from. But with the exception of that little confusing, it was a delight to see Sharon Carter again. And the speech she gives, the kind of the end of that speech she gives, is actually directly from the comics. It is a direct speech that Cap actually gives in the comics. And I had literally seen that panel a couple days before, and as soon as the words came out of Emily Van Camp's mouth, I immediately was like, oh my gosh, that came straight out of the comics.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And we love whenever somebody pulls something like that directly out of the comics. Whether it's a piece of dialogue or a shot, like if you're talking about the Flash and you've got the Flash of Two Earths and they recreate that cover. Whenever somebody does that and directly emulates the comics, that's just it's so joyous. We love that, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and then the fact that Sharon, I know she's with the FBI, or not the FBI, CIA, but she really actually does play a very similar role in this movie that she does in the comic book Civil War. Because in the comic books, she's S.H.I.E.L.D., which is the one who is supposed to be enforcing the Superhuman Protection, or Superhuman Registration Act. This time she's CIA anti-terrorism. Both times she's really working for the team that Iron Man is. But she ends up secretly helping Cap on his mission. And so I love that they very, very faithfully, they very much kept her in that same role of, hey, I'm the inside woman for Cap kind of thing.
Yeah.
That being said, and I love that the interaction, how, and they really worked on putting that relationship together, just because I feel like they didn't do enough in Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I do feel like the kiss was a little rushed, but I'm going to let that go.
I'll agree with you there. I feel like that would have... Yeah, I'll agree with you there. Let's see. Let's move. Yeah, Sharon's awesome, and of course she helps them find Barnes after the UN explosion, which kills King T'Chaka, which I kind of saw coming.
Yeah, I think pretty much everybody saw that coming.
If you know Black Panther.
Yeah, well, even if you knew casting news and you knew this guy was the Black Panther and saw a trailer, chances are, pretty much the whole internet knew that was going to happen. So that was not a surprise.
Which, granted, it's not stated whether T'Challa is the Black Panther when his father dies and thus King is Black Panther, because that's the thing. He talked being, the Black Panther is a warrior that protects Wakanda, but it's not necessarily. But then he says that, and now I'm king. So that doesn't necessarily mean that in this continuity, Black Panther is king. So it's one of those things. T'Challa could have already been Black Panther, and even before his father died. So he could have already had all the Black Panther stuff.
Oh yeah, well, the fact that he already has a suit that's fitted to him suggests that he is that. And he says that the Black Panther is a mantle passed from one warrior to another. And you're right, that line where he talks about he's the Black Panther and king now. I think he was definitely Black Panther. I think that's a completely separate lineage, almost not that they're anything like the Sith, but a master student kind of thing. There's a warrior, he is the Black Panther. He'll have an apprentice or a squire, basically like a knight has a squire. And then when that person dies or retires, they pass the mantle on to the next one. So it seems like they were, and that is, I believe, different from the comics. I'm not real familiar with Black Panther from the comics, but I think that is different.
Yeah. Well,
it's the same. It's the same role essentially. The king is the Black Panther and everything like that.
Yeah, that's at least how it was in the Earth's Mightiest Heroes cartoon. So,
gotcha.
Yeah,
So
And Black Panther. Let's go ahead and talk about Black Panther.
yeah, let's go ahead and talk about him.
He's awesome. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh, I'm so. This thing, they really didn't like. They introduce him, but they don't really go much into Wakanda like culture or black or really T'Challa outside of the events of this movie. So I'm super psyched to see the Black Panther live action. Like, I I hope it does not get pushed back at now. Like for any other reason, I hope it does not get pushed back because I really see the Black Panther movie. I want to see what Chadwick Boseman can do because he did a phenomenal job with T'Challa.
yeah, absolutely. Well, and I watched I think it was a Jimmy Kimmel interview with him, and he was just absolutely great. We're talking about how he developed the even just the accent for it, and worked with a vocal coach and everything to really get to find a dialect that really worked for Wakanda, considering it is a fictional place. And how
And we actually see Wakanda on a map. I was surprised we'd see it. Like we'd see it on a map. I want to go through it again and actually compare that to an actual map of Africa.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't think we see the map long enough to really get a fix for it, but we'll see. I was about to say something. Now I've lost it.
Jimmy Kimmel
Oh yeah,
dialect.
Jimmy Kimmel. So they talk about how he started with a South African kind of dialect that for another character he had played, and he started there, and they kind of worked it into what it was, something that was both authentic and then that also worked for Marvel, for them to approve and everything like that. So I thought, yeah, he did a great job both in and out of costume. And he also talked about Jimmy Kimmel, how the stunt guys had to fight him to be in this, like he had, he wanted to be in that suit as much as he was allowed to be. So a lot of that fighting is him, and that's great because that means
that fighting,
acting, the serious acting that you see, but then he's also doing the stunt work for it, everything. And I think that is absolutely, we love when, I mean, let's face it, we love when actors will do that, when they'll do their own stunts.
Yeah. And the fighting, Black Panther, I think he had the most distinct fighting style of any character in the MCU. Like it was so different from the way we've seen, so different from even the way we've seen Cap fight. Like Cap fights him, yeah, he's definitely a brawler, lots of punches, kicks, occasionally kicks and all that, but a lot of fist work. Black Panther has his own martial art that no one like the scene where he's fighting the Winter Soldier. He's just moving in such a way that I don't think we've seen anyone move in the MCU the same way, and that I think really cements Black Panther as being that really helps him stand out amongst the whole crowd, and it especially comes into play with the big battle at the airport where everyone has their different style of fighting, and Black Panther is. I really loved that. That was something I picked up on.
Yeah, definitely. I think absolutely. It's much more fluid. It's very cat-like in that it's fluid. It's very kind of slinky. Whereas Captain America in some ways is somewhat like a pinball. He hits here, hits there, hits boom, boom, boom. Hits, pulls back, hits, pulls back. Whereas Black Panther seemed to really kind of glide and slink around that everything like that. So and I love the detail. They did a couple really great shots of the claw in retracting or extending, and you can see that it's how it's right there on top, like basically running on top of the finger, and then kind of extends out, down and out. And I love that they did that. It was just gorgeous to show the technological side of this suit, because that's something that doesn't come across real well, I think, in the comic books a lot, that there is a lot of technology going on in there. And honestly, until the after credits shot that we don't get a lot to indicate that Wakanda is as technologically advanced as it is. That's the thing. Wakanda is very technologically advanced, more than a lot of what we would call, a lot of like American, European countries. as far as technology goes.
A lot of first
the
world
reason that people don't think about that is that Wakanda is so seclusive.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, that's the thing. They have the world's supply of vibranium.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously going to help in technological advancements. And of course, Black Panther's suit, like the fact that like bullets just like they hit him and fall because they absorb all the vibration. I mean, that's just like that's such a cool thing to see because Black Panther doesn't have superpowers. It's just that awesome suit.
Yes, absolutely. Well,
which evidently helps him run fast.
Yeah. Well, the awesome suit, and then he has training too. That's the other thing.
Oh, yeah.
He does say the mantle is passed from warrior to warrior. So before he was ever in the king, from a very young age, he was trained to be a warrior first, kind of thing. And I love that even his father says, even though you don't have a love for diplomacy, you're getting good at it. I thought that was kind of interesting to say, okay, he's obviously, his nature is as a fighter. His nature is to go on the offensive. And we see that happen when his father dies. But at the same time, he's king now. He has to be very diplomatic and think things through and everything like that. And I think you see that in the very last scene where he, with him and Zemo. I think you see that, that wisdom come through. Because that's the thing, he seems kind of like he seems, his revenge-driven, loose cannon-ish somewhat for the first part of the film that we see him. And then it's at the end where he kind of starts to really kind of be like, okay, let's stop and think for a minute. So
yeah.
Black Panther is really great. I cannot wait for Black Panther movie. It'll be very interesting. It'll also be interesting to see who else is in the Black Panther movie with him, because now that
Claw.
What?
I said Claw. I'm hoping that we'll see Claw.
Claw. Didn't he die?
No. Ultron lightsaber cut, laser cut his arm off.
His arm off.
That way he can have the robot claw.
Right. I meant though the fact that Captain America and his team are now hiding out in Wakanda based on the post-credit scene. Which is going to work very much in parallel to the fact that Tony Stark is supposed to continue his mentorship of Peter Parker and Spider-Man. And so that'll be a nice little thing to see that, okay, now we have these two people, and now they both kind of got an Avenger kind of there to kind of lean on a little bit, to kind of give them advice and help them out a little bit. Hopefully there's not too much, and because otherwise it could very much pull away from them, the attention away from them. But that'll be a very fun part to see in both those movies.
Yeah. So speaking of, so of course they find Bucky, they catch him, and after Zemo gets him out, and he goes on his mind-controlled rampage, of course the teams start to form, and Rogers and his team sort of go rogue. Tony has to bring him in, and of course we have Black Widow and Tony are basically, they're like, oh well, we need some more help. Black Widow's like, hey, I got a guy, he's downstairs, and I got a guy. Cut to Queen.
There's that great line of, where's yours? Downstairs. Where's yours? Because it's a question Widow didn't think to ask. It's like, where? That being said, T'Challa makes sense because he is already involved and everything like that. While I did love Spider-Man and everything, and his involvement, everything they did with him, it does seem a little weird that Tony is going to leave where they are in Europe, fly back to New York, to recruit this kid that he's never met before.
Yeah, I was surprised by
never
that.
met Peter Parker before. That's the thing. We see their first meeting on screen, and it seemed really weird. And here's the other thing: Tony is like fully on board with answering to Ross and to the Accords. I guarantee you, none of them would have approved him recruiting a teenager to go fight. So he obviously did that without talking to them.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. While I love it, and it was great, and every other part that Peter played, and the part that Peter played in the whole movie was great. It does feel like we know now that we have Spider-Man. Let's figure out how to get him in here, and so it doesn't seem really why Tony's like, well, we need to find. It makes sense why everybody else, Steve is has his back against the wall. He needs reinforcements, so he calls Clint. Obviously, Clint gets Wanda, and then it's like, oh, we need some. We could maybe use another hand. Oh, we know there's this guy that Stark doesn't even know about, so that's an ace in the hole for us. And so that's great. And it's one of those things. It's like, yeah, we need an extra hand. We've got this guy in a giant cat suit downstairs. Let's grab him. That makes sense. Tony flying to find this kid in New York, and then come back to Germany. It was one of those things. It was just that bit that just why is he going to find Peter Parker didn't make a whole lot of sense. The rest of the Spider-Man stuff, absolutely wonderful. He's just kind of he's somewhat bumbling through it, and he's like, hey, I really need to impress Mr. Stark. The guy who's like, come on, it's like my dad's here. I really want to impress him. Just let me score the goal. Just please, just let me score the goal. And it's like, it's so cute.
Well, it's one of those things though. One of the questions that kind of ran through my head with that whole interaction between Tony and Peter was great. But my only question was, okay, kid, you and your aunt apparently, like, you are not doing well enough financially to afford like any recent computer because you're using it looked like an Apple II or some other old Macintosh. I mean, it's just, and yet shooters. How did you do that? Is that did you blow all of your savings on the web shooters? Is that why you have to use this old computer?
Yeah.
That was just something that stuck out to me, and I was like, all right, fine. But hey, he's got web shooters. Apparently, had already or in the time span of 24 how long did they say? 24 hours? Like, we were given 36 hours to bring you in. That was 24 hours ago.
Yeah, well, so they were given 36 hours, 24 hours. So he spent,
So he spent between a day designing this skin tight but high tech suit for Peter.
Yeah. I mean, it's fairly low tech compared to his own stuff. So
yeah, but it's got the shifting eyes. Yeah. Which I'm glad they gave an explanation for that. I mean, I would have taken the shifting eyes no matter what, because shifting eyes, and I love that from comics. Yeah. It's just like,
I did like that detail about him talking about how just everything's dialed up to 10. So he's got to do something to basically it's kind of like Riddick, he's his eyes, they see great in the dark, but he goes outside and he can't see anything, so he's got to have these goggles. So it made sense, and all the fighting and everything was absolutely brilliant. It's just that intro that just kind of like,
which leads us to the airport battle, which I thought was that was the best superhero fight scene I think I've ever seen in any movie. That is just the best fight scene, because And I think one of the big things about that is just that you do have so many varied players. You know, like everyone's got a gimmick, and that fact just it's just the combination of all these. It was just so well choreographed and yeah, awesome. I loved it, and the fact that it opens. You go.
No, I said absolutely. I was agreeing with you.
Yeah. Hey.
Hey, Mom.
Hi. You're on YouTube, Mom. Forever. Forever. Yes. So it's not like anyone's here. Where was I? Oh yeah. And the fact that it opens like with Cap just like walking to the helicopter, and of course everyone on Stark's team shows up. You know, Stark, Black Widow, Black Panther, and then finally Spider-Man. Like he takes the shield and all that, and it's like and it's like oh man, they're Scott. Boom! Scott is on the shield already. They ambushed the ambush.
Yes, I did love that. And the fact that they kind of knew something was going to happen, so they were like, well, okay, let's go. Scott, you stay close to me, and everything like that. And
I love Scott's new suit, by the way. It's a great suit. I love the helmet.
Yeah, the new suit is really good. I like that because and of course the big other thing with Ant-Man is that he goes giant, so we get Giant Man in this movie. And I think what's really great,
I flipped out when that happened
because a lot of fans were talking about, well, what are they going to do with the helmet? Because in the comic books, the helmet just kind of disappears when he goes big. But they have talked about how in the movies how that helmet is necessary to keep you safe with PIM particles.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I was.
The helmet had to stay on. And honestly, it didn't bother me. I thought it was fine that the helmet stayed, and basically he just got big.
Yeah, I mean it's really a big deal to me. Like I was not expecting that to happen because like it works in something like say Avengers. I just use them as an example because it's my go-to Avengers thing, where it retracts into those little side ear things as he grows, and it makes sense that the whole thing would, like, if he got too big, because that helmet is designed for the communication with the ants. That's not necessarily in the movie. In the movie, the helmet is part of the growing technology. It's not designed whereas in the comics and in Earth's Mightiest Heroes, he can grow regardless of that helmet. Right. That helmet is sold to communication. In the movie, that helmet is the integral part of the transformation. So that's the thing. So I don't really care. Plus, it was so cool to see him go giant, especially because they were talking about I think I can do it. I've only done it once in a lab, and I'm like, is he gonna do it? Is he gonna do it? Then he pressed the button, and I was like, oh
my god! Yeah,
that's so cool. Granted, I'm people who like Ant-Man, so that was cool for me.
Yeah, well, and what's great too is you can see Tony's frustration because he's just like, does anyone have any power or skill that they haven't necessarily shared with the group yet that they want to pull out right now and help everybody out? Because this guy, I don't know who he is, came out of nowhere. And
oh my God.
That is the thing with the with the exception of the brief run-in with T'Challa, that's only brief. Each team has somebody that the other team has never seen before. Spider-Man, Ant-Man, and those are kind of their aces and stuff like that. And of course, I think it's funny. Peter makes the Star Wars reference in taking down.
Hey guys, you ever see that really old movie, The Empire Strikes Back? Tony, how old is this guy?
And I love that they use it that way because, I think even 5 years ago, 10 years ago, if a character in a movie made a Star Wars reference, everybody would out like it would have been like other characters would have not known what they were talking about. It would have been, oh, look at the geek referencing Star Wars. But no, it's a reverse. It's a this kid is referencing something that he thinks we don't know about, but we all know about it. We know it better than he does. It's kind of like, oh my gosh, you know, it's the old, it is the old fart sitting around. It's like, those darn kids.
Yeah.
So I did love that kind of moment that they had.
Yeah. And of course, one thing that they showed with Giant Man that is sometimes lost when people like in the Avengers cartoon, man moves pretty normal. But it's one of those things where like I liked that they addressed the fact that you get bigger, you get slower because gravity is you have greater mass, so so relatively you're going to get slower to everyone else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So all they
Paul Rudd is hilarious as always. And something we didn't talk about was they really started to build the relationship between Wanda and Vision, and I really it's kind of subtle. Like it's not necessarily a romance, but it is one of those things that they're definitely building the connection between the two.
It is not a romance yet. It is an affection, and it is a caring. And that was something I really loved because they're very much, Vision. It is kind of one of those, and to go back to the beginning, near the beginning of the film, when Vision just kind of walks through the wall. You get the sense that that's not the first time he's done that, and the previous time probably more embarrassing than this time. He's like, well, I saw the door was open and people were talking, so I thought it was okay. Which means last time he did it, the door wasn't open.
Paul Bettany's greatest vision.
Okay. So that was fun. Just him grasping human concepts and stuff like that. Also him making a meal, showing that he is very sensitive to kind of people's feelings and stuff like that, and he is very aware of those. He just doesn't quite really know how to react to those. And of course he doesn't actually have taste buds, so he can't actually tell if he's making anything correctly or not.
And of course, but it does show that Vision definitely cares about Wanda to the point of a relationship. I was like, it's Vision. We need Vision. Take down Falcon. And he shoots, and he's like, "Sorry, I was distracted. I didn't know that was possible, Vision. Neither did I."
Yeah.
They're gonna get married and have kids.
Well, and there is that moment kind of at the end of the fight, right before that scene that you just said, where he's holding Wanda, and Wanda's like, and they're both of them say they're sorry. And they're both kind of like, look, we were put in a really bad position, and I'm sorry, and you're sorry, and we're both sorry, and we're just kind of deal with it. And I think that's the great thing, is that there's no animosity there between them. Vision is operating completely on logic, as machines like to do, and saying what is the best for the whole situation that's going on. And he's doing what he believes is best for the whole situation. Wanda is, in a way, acting very much on emotion of, how you guys are keeping me prisoner here because I might be hurt, but it's ultimately you're blaming me for this. And she very much leaves and goes with Steve based on emotion and stuff like that. And that's very kind of cool to see that dynamic as the two of them. One is logic, one is passion kind of thing. And I think that's a really cool dynamic to play with. I would have liked if we could have maybe progressed them a little further down that line. but I think theirs is a little bit like I said with Steve and Sharon. The kiss felt a little rushed, and I feel like we could have gotten to that maybe a little later in the film. We could have had Sharon come back and done that a little later in the film.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where they left Vision and Wanda was the right place to do that without, and they didn't push something like a kiss or something like that. I think it was the right thing to do. So yeah, they're adorable, and hopefully we get to see them in more soon. I don't know what we'll get to see them in. Wanda is probably hanging out in Wakanda with Steve and them. And Vision's just mopey at the Avengers facility. So that is the one.
Speaking,
Vision was very mopey.
Yeah.
Very mopey.
Well, he's a robot. He has to deal with robot things and find out who he is and all that kind of stuff. On the point of being sorry, we have Hawkeye and Black Widow. And first off, I want to say Hawkeye, great to see Clint back. Probably should not have come out of retirement, bro. Just saying, because now you're in prison and on the run. So, and that's the thing. Probably the first place. I wouldn't be surprised if the first place that they checked was Clint's house. Hopefully, Tony or Vision or someone just went there just as we're just here to see if he's here. Okay, he's not. Fine. Hopefully, then Ross didn't.
Well, I'm guessing because he says he set it up that nobody knew about his farm. Even so now Fury set that up. So my guess is that, with the exception of the people who have actually been there, like Tony, nobody else knows.
They probably. And the thing, Tony probably didn't reveal.
That's something Tony just kind of forgets
that information.
Absolutely, it's just something he forgets to mention. I can see that happening. So I'm pretty sure that once Steve breaks them out of the raft, he just goes home. So I'm not too worried about Clint. I do love that. There's that line that was in a clip or a trailer or something like, "Are we still friends?" It's like, depends on how hard you hit me.
Yeah. And speaking of Clint, his bow had that new it had the staff mode where it flattened out and all that. I thought that was so cool.
Yes, and I thought that was definitely an allusion towards. In the comics, Clint Barton stops using the name Hawkeye for a while and takes the name Ronin. And I think he actually is Ronin during the Civil War. And that's where he actually has that. And so that might be one of those things like Clint Barton, Hawkeye, everybody knows who he is. If he ends up operating as a superhero later on down the line, he may move to the Ronin persona in order to kind of cover his tracks a little bit. I think so. I also love how Wanda intervenes in that fight between him and Nat and just knocks Nat out because she can tell, Clint, you're pulling your punches. That was just going to go on forever. We need you to actually do something rather than just essentially dance around with Aunt Nat kind of thing. Which I thought was really great. It's like, and that Wanda calls him on it, who is, the rookie is the one who calls him, is like, you were pulling your punches.
Yeah. And I love that scene, that scene earlier, with when Clint breaks her out. You can tell that they sort of have a, I think Clint says something about, I owe one or something, or I have a debt with you or something. Yeah. Which is clearly a reference to Pietro.
Absolutely.
And I feel like it's one of those things in a worse writer's hands that probably would have been a thing to create animosity between those two.
I have a life debt. I must repay this debt I have to her. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Or even if Wanda saying, my brother sacrificed himself because. But no, it's like they both recognize that Pietro, yes, sacrificed himself to save Clint, but he did something heroic and all that, and it's clearly a point of respect, of mutual respect between the two, and that was really good.
Well, and it's also a continuation of the mentor role that Hawkeye took with Wanda in at the very end of Age of Ultron. You know, he gives that great speech to her about, you know, you can stay here, you be safe. I'll send somebody to come get you, but you step out those doors, you're an Avenger. You do your job, kind of thing. You know, so you know, and he begins that mentor role kind of for her. Even though he's retired, he begins that mentor role, and I think that's very much a continuation. And it's very, again, it's a apprentice master thing. You know, you look at like Anakin, Ahsoka, kind of. You know, who's gonna call you on your crap? Well, it's your student who's like, or you know, who's gonna call a parent out? It's like, didn't you just, you know, you told me not to do that. Why are you doing that, kind of thing? You know, the same way as you know, a child might call out their parent and be like, you just told me not to. It's like you're pulling your punches, and so I think that's a great kind of both. It reflects both the Clint feels an obligation, a debt to Wanda, and then there's also this mentor-mentee relationship that's developed, where they both respect each other and everything like that. So I think, yeah, it was absolutely great. And that's what I really love, is to see these very complex relationships between characters. None of the relationships are simple, and none of them are, these characters are connected, these characters are connected, these characters are connected, and then they just happen to be, this is how the chips have fallen, kind of thing.
Yeah, this was definitely, I think, Marvel's most character-driven film. So it really worked in that regard.
I also love how the lines that are drawn are not permanent lines. There's a good bit of shifting that takes place in those lines. Because we do see Nat let them go. And Tony kind of throws it in her face. It's like, it's hard to not be the double agent, isn't it? You know, but I've got to say that, you know, is another great Black Widow performance, and that's why Dave, you know, I think Feige has said that they're committed to doing a Black Widow project at some point. It's not on the calendar yet, but they are committed to. That's something they're continually talking about, and I think the more Scarlett just brings it, and the more the writing team hits that character dead on, I think the more likely it is that happens. And I'd love for the Russo brothers to do it, because the best, in my opinion, the best Widow stuff we've gotten was her stuff in Iron Man 2, was her stuff in Cap 2, and was her stuff here in Civil War. And I know the Russo brothers didn't do anything with Iron Man 2. But, you know, they did do The Last Captain America, and they've done this one. That's not to say Joss did a bad job with the Avengers. It's just, you're trying to focus on so many characters with the Avengers that, and I feel like she definitely got the chance to shine more working as closely as she does with Cap in the last film and this film.
I think the Russos actually, I think they kind of have Whedon beat for focusing on characters well, because this is like, it definitely has that Avengers 2.5 feel, but it's still a Captain America movie. But I never felt like anyone got too little to do. Maybe Sharon, but like,
but she still got to do a lot. I just would have liked her to come back at the end somehow. Yeah,
but that's the thing. T'Challa got an arc. Vision and Wanda, and got their stuff. Clint and Nat, like everyone really got a lot to do. And of course, the big thing, like one of the things I thought was like a great scene was that scene on the raft where Tony is entering, and like I feel like had we had Daredevil in this movie, that would have been a great way to work in the Judas line from the comics, because I love that line, but it's really it's a line that could not come from any other character other than Daredevil, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think it could. Yeah. Just because, especially with his Catholic background and everything.
but it is, of course, there is, Clint is in there, and he's like, oh, look who it is. He's going to lock his friends up in a cage and all that.
Yeah.
And
well, he calls him a futurist, but in a mocking way. He's like, look, here's the futurist. He knows what's best for you, even if you don't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was great. And I think, yeah, it had to be Clint that mocked him.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a long time coming.
Yeah. Even though, Sam had his little thing of where he doesn't really want to tell anything, and of course, and I love that Scott got in a line. He was like, "I was right, never trust a Stark," and then Tony was just like, "Who are you again?" He's like, "Really?" It was like,
that was good, and I did appreciate.
Come on, I'm trying to be a part of the group here.
I do like that Cap got some vindication, in the middle of the film, where as Tony's like, "Oh, Cap was right. Bucky's not. We should have trusted Cap about this. Blah 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 blah." It doesn't change their situation politically.
Yeah.
But Tony does recognize it's like, okay, Cap's right. He's acting on information that he has to do something. We were in his way.
Yeah.
Blah 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 blah. So I
was really worried that when Sam decides, all right, fine, but you go as a friend, you don't take anyone else with you, and then of course we see Tony fly off to go to the Russian outpost or wherever, Siberia. And we see Black Panther follow. Yeah, in Siberia, where we see like Black Panther like follow him. I was like, oh no, is this gonna start more stuff? Because he told him to go alone and all that. But no, that's not what starts the stuff. And essentially Black Panther just kind of stands to the side. Oh, vengeance is wrong character arc. What starts the stuff though? Oh my gosh, the ending. I have very mixed feelings on the ending. On the ending battle. I'll be honest.
I'm going to agree with you on that
because it's one of those things where there did have to be a final confrontation, especially between Cap and Iron Man, if anything, just for the climax of the film. But it's one of those things where where Zemo shows him shows Tony the tape, and it's revealed that car at the beginning was the car of Tony and Maria, or not Tony, Howard and Maria, and it was one of those things. It was like I sort of thought I figured that was the case. I knew it was going to come up again. I didn't know how. But it was one of those things where they did that car scene, and then they cut to the Tony's whole if you say goodbye you're gonna regret it. And of course we knew that Winter Soldier had killed the Starks.
Deck here, babyface RDJ.
Oh my god, I don't know.
So much fun to see him just all babyface. It reminded me of the Steve Rogers moment in the first Cap when they take Chris Evans and make him all short and puny and everything like that with CG.
Or young Michael Douglas from Ant-Man. I don't know how they keep doing this great aging effects. It's like, because that's the thing. I mean, I at least thought the Michael Douglas stuff worked to make him look like young Michael Douglas.
Yeah, it did. Well, and that's the thing too is with Steve Rogers, they made him a completely different kind of physical type, whereas RDJ and Michael Douglas, you're de-aging them, so you have reference photos to go to of when they were younger. You can do, and
you have whole reference films. You can see them from every angle.
Exactly. So that's great, and so seeing baby-faced RDJ. I'll be honest though. They opened the movie with that Winter Soldier kind of story, of him on that mission. And I'll be honest, until it came back up, I had completely forgotten that scene had existed. Like, because it happened, and then we really didn't get an explanation for it, and we kind of moved on. And it was kind of one of those things that I really forgot that scene existed. Also, I really thought, I didn't think that car was very nice. I felt like Howard would have had a nicer car, to be quite honest. But
maybe he's trying to be inconspicuous. Everyone expects Howard Stark to drive a nice car.
Exactly.
But that's the thing. I'm kind of mixed on my feelings of the ending, because on the one hand, okay, yeah, Tony would obviously be upset about that, and you know that does lead to a good final. And it leads to a great fight. But at the same time, you know he was brainwashed. He didn't do any of it of his own volition, and yet you're still gonna try to kill him. And it's like, I don't know. It was
it makes sense to me. And really, and that's the thing he says. He killed my mom. He doesn't say he killed my parents. He killed my mom. Honestly, he and his dad, it's one of those things, and he's dealt with his stuff with his dad a lot in the movies. And you can kind of tell that really, if his dad had been alone and died, it probably would not have affected him, in truth. The fact is, it was his mom, and that's the whole reason. Happy Mother's Day, by the way.
Mother's Day tomorrow.
He gets all crazy and goes off on these guys is because, he killed my mom. So I understand it.
But at the same time,
the thing that I didn't like is that it takes this big kind of issue, which is a very complex issue, a very public issue, this affects a lot of people issue, and then turns the cap against Iron Man into a personal issue, which I disliked.
Yeah,
and
which
I think that was the issue.
Yeah, and it also kind of in a way puts Tony, maybe not like the team Iron Man was fighting for, but it puts Tony himself in the wrong. Kind of wrong because and you agree with Steve. I mean, yeah, dude, he was brainwashed. I mean, chill out. You don't need to murder him for it. And it's like, and I feel like that kind of reduces it a little because it's personal and Tony, and now they're vilifying Tony, and it's like, don't get me wrong, the final fight was awesome, and seeing that cover, Cap holding the shield and Stark blasting it, like seeing that recreated was awesome. But it's like the motivation, I don't know. It's like I have mixed feelings on it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like it works in terms of the story, but it also, it then vilifies Tony, and I don't really agree. That was a really good thing.
Yeah, I think it feels a little cheap, to be quite honest.
Yeah. So, but hey, could have ended a lot worse.
Yeah, it could have ended a lot worse. And of course, the other thing that we haven't talked about, that I really haven't needed anybody talking about, is that they killed Howard in order to get that stuff, to create more Buckies, essentially, more Winter Soldiers. But was I the only one? I saw that, and immediately, was I the only one that thought Kree? Because it's blue. It's this blue stuff that they end up putting into these guys to give them special powers.
No, once they mentioned the whole there are other Winter Soldiers thing, I thought it was Super Soldier Serum. I was like, oh, did he succeed? Especially because there was that whole thing in Agent Carter where they have
a
Project Rebirth stuff. Yeah, I'm like, did Howard succeed? Was he going off to deliver this to the United States? Could we have had was that super soldier serum? That was my thinking, at least.
That's fair, and that's why there's speculation is most of the big kind of end of the TV season movies like Winter Soldier or Ultron have also had some tie-in to the TV show Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And they've been doing a lot with the Kree and Kree blood and stuff like that. So I didn't know if this was an attempt, if that was something that was just a little tie-in thing that they were trying to do or not. So it could have been Super Soldier, it could have been Kree. We don't get an explanation about it because it's really not important to the story.
Right.
It really is just why was Bucky there to take out. The interesting thing too is that what I think is interesting is that Howard and Barnes knew each other. So, and I can't remember if he was wearing. I don't think he wasn't wearing a mask or anything. I'm curious if Howard recognized him.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's hard to know if he knew. Like, obviously, he knew Steve really well. It's hard to know if he knew Barnes as well. Especially because Bucky, like, within the time frame that Stark could know Bucky, I think probably by a halfway point of that time frame, Bucky died. So it's one of those things where it's hard to know how well he did know Barnes.
Yeah, that is very true. I'm pretty sure, based on the fact that that Stark and Rogers were working so close together, and then Barnes was essentially helping him lead his unit. I feel like there would have been some interaction. They would have at least known each other. Maybe not have been best buds like Tony and Barnes or Tony and Stark, but I feel like there would have been at least kind of how you walk down the hall and you see somebody and you recognize them. You may not know everything. You may not know them real well, but you at least recognize them. So, but that's just kind of my own personal question: is did Howard recognize who this guy was when it happened? So, but yeah, the whole fight scene does seem cheap, in my opinion, as far as why they're in that last fight scene and everything like that. And then it just kind of ends because everybody's exhausted.
Yeah. Steve, he breaks out the guys. I'll be honest, I actually did not know that there was a mid-credit scene. I did not see that on the what I usually do is I just scroll down to the Wikipedia thing and look for the phrase mid-credit scene or post-credit scene. I didn't see it on the page, so I went to the bathroom when the first credits started rolling, because I knew I could see, there's a post credit scene, but I'm not seeing anything about a mid credit scene. So I went to the bathroom. So I came back just in time for the last word from T'Challa and that great pan of seeing that big panther statue, which was awesome. So I'm gonna have to go back again and movie again, which I will, but especially to catch that last bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess not a whole lot happens. One thing I will say it does show the technological sophistication that Wakanda has that we really don't get up until that point. I mean, you see his suit and you see the fact that he's got this really gnarly Quinjet.
Which I just figured he'd get that from the base. But speaking of vibranium, oh my gosh, that moment where he scratches the shield. Oh, that was so cool.
Yeah, and you see that throughout the rest of the movie too. When you see the shield, it's got that thing. It's got those scratches.
And he leaves the shield behind. So I wonder what's.
Yeah,
doesn't he?
But and that's another thing. I wanted to bring up is he does leave the shield behind because Stark kind of says, "That's not yours. My dad made that." Blah 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 blah. You know, being very whiny teenager about it. But in the comic book, we are getting Steve Rogers back, and he's got a new shield.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I feel like I don't know which way it went, but it's one of those things we talk about: is the comic emulating the movie, or is the movie emulating the comic? I feel like this is a awfully strange coincidence that somehow they're gonna get Cap a new shield for whatever the next movie Cap's in, and give him this version of it in order to make sure the comics and the movies are all matching up nicely.
I'll be honest, I don't think so. I think it'll just be like one of those things where, like, when let's say we don't see the Avengers until Infinity War. I think it'll be one of those things where, you know, Tony calls them on that phone and says, "Captain, my father made this for you," and like hands him back like a fixed shield and all that, and then it'll be a big moment or something. Or the two are buds again. Or maybe he makes do with like, or maybe he makes do with a.
He is in Wakanda, where vibranium comes from, so he can probably get himself a nice little armory of shields. He can have multiple shields and be like,
yes,
this is my my summer shield. This is my winter shield. This is my island shield, and this is my business shield. Have a shield for everything.
It's all black. It's all black with like just like a white star.
Yes, yeah. This is my formal shield. It's black and white. It goes with my tux. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. If they do a triangular shield, that'll probably be what they do. But it was one of those things where. But yeah, that was a big moment. Then we get the post-credit scene where I was like, which was like, that's the thing, they've shifted, and this was the most people I've seen stay for a post-credit scene in a Marvel movie now, so it's like, clearly the movie-going public is catching on. This is one of those things where with the credit scene we see, and with that, I presume it's like a new web shooter that Stark built. But and we just like pan up and see the spider signal, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, the spider signal!" I was not expecting that. People forget about the spider signal all the time.
Yeah, that was a really cool scene. That was really cool, and I love that he's talking about how because he's still got the bruises from it, and he's talking about, he got. It was a kid from Brooklyn named Steve, which is completely true. He didn't lie.
Yeah.
He had a really big friend.
Yeah.
His friend was huge, he's like, I got in a couple good hits. So I love that.
You have a metal arm. That's awesome, dude.
Yeah, I love that when somebody like a character can not lie and yet not tell anyone and yet still not say what actually happened. That's a great moment. Right. That's a great way to you can write things. And I did like that exchange at the airport where Cap's like, "Where are you from, kid?" "Queens." "I'm from Brooklyn."
It's like New York buddies.
It's like New York buddies. Yeah. It's like that's the thing. It's like you got the science bros, right? Which was Banner and Stark from the first Avengers and stuff like that. Yeah. And it's like now we got New York bros.
Yes. And it's one of those things where it's not quite the truthful, like it's not like the truthful thing where like I love it when like say a superhero will say like Clark Kent in the animated series once said, Well, Lois, the reason I wasn't there yesterday was because I'm really Superman in disguise, and I only pretend to be a reporter so that I can hear about crimes as they happen, and then slip you out of the byline. And then Lois is just like, you're, or it's like, your mother raised a liar, Clark Kent. And
Yeah.
it's like, she just does not believe that he's Superman.
Yeah,
And
nobody
it's,
believes it. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's a great moment too when someone just completely comes clean about the truth and nobody believes it. I'll give you
yeah.
that too. But
But yeah, that was a great thing. Oh, can we talk about about the fact that with every successive movie, we have not only gotten a younger looking
Peter Parker.
Peter Parker, which Tom Holland nails Peter Parker. I love him. I think he's, don't get me wrong, I love Andrew Garfield. He was a great Spider-Man, but Tom Holland is also a great, it's like he's so good at Spider-Man, and he looks 15. That's the thing. Andrew Garfield, I feel like in the first movie looked like he was 19.
Yeah.
He looked like he should have graduated college already, or graduated high school already. Tom Holland does look like he's 15, and
I agree with that.
That was cool.
And I thought he did.
But we also get hotter May. We also get like Aunt May keeps getting younger and
yes, she does, right?
And it's like,
you look at the Tobey Maguire Aunt May. She was a really old lady.
Yeah, she's old lady Aunt May.
Sally Fields with Garfield, who got a little bit younger, but was still kind of up there. And it's like, yeah, we can believe with this.
Like 50s kind of.
And then we get, obviously his mom's, or is it a mom, or no? It's Ben who's related to his dad, right?
Yes.
Yes, because they're all Parkers. So then you get, hot Aunt May.
You mentioned that, and Peter's just like, dude.
Yeah. Parker's complaining because he's like, dude, you're hitting on my aunt. What are you doing? Stop. And I want that to be continuing. I want that to be something that continues into the Spider-Man Homecoming, because I want it to be, Tony shows up to like star by, and all of a sudden it's just like, hey, how's it going, man? How you doing? Yeah. And it just and it's one of those things that just annoys Peter. It's like I love this superheroing and gadgets and stuff like that, but can you please stop hitting on my aunt?
Yeah. Which will depend, of course, on how his relationship with Pepper goes, because,
Which I think they just didn't have the money to get Gwyneth Paltrow, to be quite honest. I think that's
yeah. Same reason she was at some big conference or something in Age of Ultron.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't have, because she was very briefly in the first Avengers.
Yeah.
And so it's like, so she wasn't in that. Jane wasn't in it. Like, so they obviously had, I think it was a budgetary thing, or either that or a scheduling thing, and they just didn't want to really have to deal with it, I think. So they wrote it as, and part of it is also, I think, Tony's murder complex that he has of, kind of everything's my fault. Everything's Tony's fault. He's going to feel guilty about things no matter what it is, whether it's I'm not spending enough time, I'm not being a good enough boyfriend to Pepper, I'm not running the company correctly, I'm not saving as many people as I should have. And that's
I built a killer robot. Wait, that one actually is on me.
Is that he has this murder complex where he feels like he needs to be responsible for everything and protect. Again, that's the whole thing with Wanda, right? He leaves Vision there to protect Wanda because he needs to protect everybody. He wants to sign the Accords to protect the Avengers, to protect everybody. And he feels like it's his job to do that. It's not. And that's his problem. He feels like it's his job to do everything right and protect people and everything like that. And when it's not, he beats himself up about it. So he's wow. He really is kind of like Bruce Wayne.
So,
all
right. So now I'll be honest. I was surprised we did not get anything with Thanos. I was kind of expecting at least something. At least I don't know. I mean, I don't know what I was expecting, but it's like this really was. And that's the thing. I realized when I was thinking about this film, I was like, okay, this is kind of like Avengers 2, but this is barring Ant-Man, this is the follow-up. This is the next movie after Age of Ultron, and we still have Homecoming, Panther, Doctor Strange, a couple more movies before we get to Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
So it's gonna be a couple of years until we see the Avengers.
Yes. Yeah, it is. And I think the reason we didn't see Thanos was because no Infinity Stones were involved in this movie.
With the exception of the Mind Stone.
Well, with the exception,
which I'm glad they brought that up.
It was in the movie. It was involved in that way,
yeah.
But it wasn't a major. It wasn't a major part. Like the stones were in the first Avengers or the second Avengers, or in Guardians of the Galaxy. I think the only one. I think,
but I am glad they.
But because we got the Collector. But I think that was the big thing. The story itself really didn't have anything to do with the Mind Stone.
But so, I'm glad they at least addressed the fact that have an Infinity Gem, and they don't know. Not even Vision, even though it's a part of him, not even he is entirely sure how it works. And it's one of those things where, and they kind of touch a little bit about how it's like. And like Wanda, when she joined him, like she actually like at first I thought she just telekinetically like pushed him into the ground, but I think actually what they did was she was trying to manipulate his mind. So she actually started controlling the Mind Stone itself, and like that glow colors and all that. And like she forced his density, since he can shift his density to like be like super hard, and that's what made him go down the ground. And I thought that was really interesting. It showed that Wanda can actually control an Infinity Gem.
Yeah, definitely. Well, especially considering her powers are actually connected to the gems. And I think we talked about over the phone how her powers very much seem to mimic the ether and the powers, or the reality stones, kind of the way it works anyway. At least the fluidity and the color and everything. So it definitely seems like there is a connection between her powers and the gems, which would be great if they somehow are able to really integrate her into the Infinity War storyline and make her a big part of that. I would be all for it. I think Elizabeth Olsen has just knocked it out of the park.
Oh, she did. She's a fantastic.
So I got to do so much more in this film than she did Ultron. So,
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to discuss. We didn't really talk about Bucky much, but I mean, I feel like, and this thing, Bucky kind of was just kind of there as a plot device / motivation for Cap.
Yeah, he is kind of just there. That
but they put him and he volunteers to be put back into sleep or whatever until they can fix him.
Yeah, well, he makes the comment, "I can't trust my own mind." So he volunteers to go back into cryo and stuff like that, and it's probably the good choice. I did like there's the great when they get to Siberia, him and Steve, they're walking off the plane, and he's like, "Remember that girl?" Yeah, and they're they're reminiscing, and they're like, "She's probably 100 years old by now," and Steve just kind of says, "Yeah, so are we." And you can tell that he's back, kind of. Bucky is back, and he's his friend again. And of course, there's that great little moment when the kiss with Sharon happens, and you get this nice shot just of Sam and Bucky sitting in the car going. He just kind of snicker and kind of like. You know, just the way guys do, like, oh hey, yeah, bro, you got that, hit that.
Yeah.
And you can see them just broing, they're just broing with Steve so bad. And yeah, so those are some great moments. And obviously, there's some great fight stuff with him. Again, when they first track him down, you see a lot more of that great choreography, that fighting, and Cap's doing it.
Good.
Like that. So.
And the tossing the shield back and forth, oh man! And that final fight was good.
Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't kill Rhodey. I thought they were going to kill Rhodey.
I was very worried that was where they were going to go with that, killing Rhodey. And I was very relieved when they said that he was still alive. They did say he was going to be paralyzed, but it's one of those things with. I mean, Stark had a bunch of shrapnel in his part, and he built a whole suit of armor to keep that from happening. Helping someone walk, that's easy by comparison. So you knew at least if he was in the War Machine armor, the War Machine armor he was gonna be able to walk in that. Even if he didn't have.
It is one of those things I heard, I feel like I heard somewhere that happened in the comics. I don't remember if Rhodes had some injury to his legs but the suit helped him walk. I feel like that might have been something that actually happened in the comics, but I can't remember for sure.
I don't recall. I know during the Civil War arc, there is Goliath, who was a former assistant of Hank Pym's. He could grow big. He died.
Yeah, he gets killed. He gets killed by Ragnarok, doesn't he?
Yeah, he gets killed by Ragnarok,
the Thor clone,
the cyborg Thor. And that's really the point where kind of things become really serious in Civil War.
Yeah, that's when someone.
Okay, it's not just we're gonna sit here and argue and we're gonna trade some punches. It's like no, somebody actually died. This is serious.
Because of Tony Stark.
Because of Tony Stark, yes. And that's Cap's thing. He blames Tony for that. He's like, you pushed and you pushed and you pushed, and now somebody's dead, and that's on you, Tony. And then Tony's like, yeah, well, you should have fallen in line. If you hadn't have stirred up this ruckus, he'd still be alive too. So basically, Goliath's death really kind of escalated that conflict in the comic books.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of speculation that Rhodey was going to end up being the movie's Goliath.
Yeah.
Which really escalates and permanently divides the Avengers. And I'm very happy it didn't happen that way. We actually didn't lose anybody.
No.
So
nobody died.
Except for T'Challa's dad. T'Challa's dad died. And Zemo's family. But technically that was in the last movie.
And technically we didn't see them die.
And technically those five people that were in cryo, but we didn't really see that happen, so none of the main characters.
And technically those Wakandan, yeah.
Hey, we got a Spider-Man origin where Ben Parker didn't die. So hallelujah.
They don't even mention his uncle. Or with great power comes great responsibility. There was nothing. It was just kind of an implied thing of when you can do the things I can do, but you can't because I can't tell anybody about it and all that. It's and I feel like that was scene sort of hinted at the whole.
Why didn't they use the line? I don't understand why they didn't just use the line. Everybody was waiting. Everyone in the theater was waiting for that line to come out his mouth in that scene, and he didn't do it.
Yeah, I don't know, but they're probably saving it for the actual Spider-Man movie.
Yeah,
that's the thing. I feel like
you can really repeat that in every movie. They do. Yeah. They repeat that in every movie. It would
get annoying after a while. That's the thing. I actually like that the Amazing Spider-Man movies didn't actually make that line. And especially because Uncle Ben never actually said that. Uncle Ben never said, with great power comes great responsibility. It was the narrator of the comic that said that with great power, there must also come great responsibility. So that's the thing. The only the way the Amazing Spider-Man movies did it was
Stan Lee, basically.
Yeah.
The narrator said it.
But
Stan Lee basically was the one who said it.
yes, but anyways, the Amazing Spider-Man movies, they just had, it's like where Ben is talking to Peter, and he's like, it's not, it's not just about this. It's about Ruby. And having and that's the thing. But they never said with great power comes great responsibility. And I was like, I actually thought that was a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we're gonna get the with great power comes great responsibility. But
I do think it was one of those things with Spider-Man though too. They left him. They're like, Tony's like, "You're done, kid. You're done." He's like, "But I can. No, he's like, "No, you're done. Just stay down. Just rest." And then that was kind of it for Spider-Man, and we never really get a conclusion, a follow-up to and I guess that we get to the post-credit scene, but that's really all we get. So that was kind of another thing. I'm like, well, what happened with Spider-Man? And I kind of wanted to be like, where's Sharon? What's happening with Sharon now? And put your phone down.
Wait. Is there a Tony Stank?
That was what I was going to talk about next. Don't skip over that. Don't skip to that yet. So that's the thing. I kind of at the very end, I wanted to see kind of where Sharon was. I would have liked to have seen Sharon in Wakanda for some reason, stuff like that. That would have been nice. But oh well. I guess they only had Emily Van Camp for a couple days. I'm glad she got to kick some ass with them too. I know going back to Van Camp because the fight where Bucky breaks out, it was. Sharon and Black Widow got to kick some butt together, and that was really great to see. So
that was awesome.
So, and yes, getting to the Stan Lee cameo. He shows up as the mailman delivering a package, but can't pronounce Stark's name. He's a billionaire. Everybody knows he's Iron Man, and he lives at the Avengers compound. And yet, the mailman Stan Lee can't pronounce his name correct and pronounces it Tony Stunk, which is
Tony Stank.
On Twitter. I was using before going to the movie #Stark Stinks, and so I just felt completely vindicated at that moment. Be like, Tony Stunk.
and Rhodey's just like, this is Tony Stank. Thank you for that. I'm never letting this go. Table for one. Table for one. Reservation for Tony Stank. My gosh.
And that's Rhodey. And I did love Rhodey at the end too. Him talking about him flying, how many combat missions he'd flown, and everything like that, and how he doesn't regret what he's done. He doesn't regret the missions he's been on, everything like that. And it was a place where they could have gone very better with it for some, and made him really better, but they didn't. He's like, this is the situation we're in. We're going to deal with it. Thanks for your tech, Tony. I'm going to work on it. He wasn't feeling sorry for himself. He was just working to get better kind of thing. And I thought that was great. And then we get back to the classic Tony and Rhodey that we love from the last two Iron Man films. So that was great. So I think, that's pretty much it.
Trying to think. I'm checking the wiki if there's anything else we need. But no, it was one of those things. It was
It was a movie. It was Captain America.
It was a great movie. Spider-Man. It's just like looking back on it. My biggest problem with the movie was just the fact that now Tony is like that Tony became the villain in Cap's history. Hashtag Hamilton reference. Booyah, got one.
Yeah.
I'm catching up, Scott. I'm catching up, Scott. Yeah, that was my biggest complaint about the movie, honestly. Other than that, it was some I loved it beginning to end. Favorite character in the movie either was T'Challa or Spider-Man. Those were like the two that probably Spider-Man. Honestly, though, it was just like whenever he was on screen, it was just so much fun, and I loved it.
Yeah.
What about you?
I think that final, the very kind of ending, how they kind of brought things back to Tony and making it personal rather than ideology. That was probably the one flaw I could see, the biggest flaw. That and the random random Spider-Man.
Yeah.
My favorite character, Sharon. She's not one of the headliners, but I still love every time she gets to work and everything like that. And she was very integral. Either her or Sam. Sam was great, absolutely every time.
Yeah, Sam.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I completely forgot. Red Wing. Come on, pet him.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that was.
Yeah.
It was a bit, but it was a small thing. But I loved that apparently Sam loves his drone so much that he gave it a name, and it's treated like an actual pet.
Animal. It's like pet him. Yeah, just pet him. Just pet him.
He's cute.
Talking to that thing. So yeah, that was fun. But honestly, I think the ladies got to take it. Sharon and Wanda, those two, both of them just great characters, and both Elizabeth and Emily, both of them did an absolute amazing job. I mean, I love anytime I get to see them in anything. They're just absolutely stellar, and so it's. I meant to see. Isn't Elizabeth? I believe is in the movie with Tom Hiddleston. Isn't he? Isn't she? I Saw the Light. The Hank Williams movie. I
don't know.
I think that was funny. I feel like she was in that. Tom Hiddleston. Because she made a joke about how she only works with Marvel people. Now.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, who isn't a Marvel person nowadays?
Yeah, it's an ever widening circle. I will say that it is an ever widening circle. So.
I mean, heck, they cast Benedict Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, and then was like, well, I guess now we have to find a role for Martin Freeman.
That is one thing
we got to keep those two together.
They got Martin Freeman, and I was never completely clear on his role. Like, I understand he's in charge of whatever government body is supposed to be. I couldn't tell if he's in charge of the governmental body that's supposed to be in charge of the Avengers, or if he's in charge of the CIA.
I think he was supposed to be in charge of the CIA. I know his character was Everett Ross, who is the diplomat, or he's either the diplomat or liaison or something to Wakanda, and also and also assists Black Panther and T'Challa on international matters between the United States and Wakanda. But I don't know if that's what they're going to do with him in Black Panther.
Gotcha.
That's the thing.
No relation to General Ross.
No relation. But it's one of those things where I almost wonder if, because he just had so little to do, but they wanted to go ahead and cast that role for a Black Panther movie, if maybe they're going to shift in that direction in Black Panther, or what they're going to do with that. But that's my thinking.
That may very well be the case, and if that is the case, it'll make a lot more sense when we see him in Black Panther and everything like that. He seemed like he had so little to do that it was kind of odd
Yeah,
that they got
they can't support Martin
him.
Freeman.
Well, they were like, we're gonna get him to do this really small role, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
that's probably money you could have spent somewhere else better. But if it's an introduction for a later role,
Yeah.
I get that completely. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah. We'll see how it goes. Yeah. But other than that, I think we're done.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I don't know that there's a whole lot else to discuss. The next movie is Thor?
Doctor Strange.
Doctor Strange.
Yes.
Next movie, Doctor Strange.
Which I got a trailer for that. I got to see the big screen version of that trailer. It is one of those weird things. Speaking of Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, it is so weird hearing American accents come out of their voices, especially because Benedict Cumberbatch, he's known for his deep voice and his deep voice combined with his British accent. It really creates his distinct voice. So it is kind of weird to hear him say, "I don't believe in fairy tales," and kind of thing. It kind of changes his voice, I've noticed. Whenever a British actor does an American accent, it kind of raises the pitch of their voice.
Yeah, I think they do, and it is interesting. Yeah, it is interesting to hear, especially when they're known for something in their natural voice.
It's like Horns. Horns was the same way. Like Daniel Radcliffe, I always hear Harry Potter with his British accent, and then he says, "You guys beat the crap out of each other, and the winner gets an exclusive interview with me." And I'm like, dude, whoa, something. Is your voice okay? Or is something okay, man? It's like,
yeah. Did you actually see that movie, or you saw the trailer?
I just saw the trailer. I actually should see Horns.
That scene, it is more of that's the scene, and he's really raising his voice because he's inflecting it.
It's just like, I
think it's better throughout the whole. It is weird when you're so used to hearing their voice one way and it does come out another way. I didn't notice it as much with Martin as I did in the trailer with Benedict.
Yeah.
And that may just be a difference in how their voices work naturally anyway.
Yeah. That's definitely probably a case.
You also got to realize that we're used to Sherlock, Benedict Cumberbatch playing Sherlock, who is very wordy. So we get a lot of his voice.
Do your research.
As Watson, Martin doesn't say that. Like, he has a lot fewer words, and they're very kind of just matter of fact kind of thing. So I feel like the voice, what we've seen of him, translates better to an American accent than what Benedict has done previously. That's all I can say as far as that goes.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our discussion on Captain America: Civil War. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Obviously, this live stream will be uploaded after the fact to YouTube, so people can watch it that way. Yep. So hope y'all enjoyed. Hope you enjoyed my brother here, guest
I guess
speaker.
We did 2 intros, did we?
Yeah, we didn't.
We just kind of jumped in. So yes, you go ahead and do your intro.
Yeah, I can't edit this. So yeah. So
do an outro.
All right, I'm Daniel. You can obviously give this video a like or subscribe for more videos. I talk about comics every single week in the Comic Valiant blog, and I also will hopefully start doing some analysis videos with a series called Issue to Issue, where we'll take a deeper look at comics. Hopefully around the time of X-Men Apocalypse, when that comes out, I'll get to talk a little bit about mutants and how they make absolutely no sense in the larger context of the Marvel Universe. But look forward to that. You can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. All the links are down below. Josh?
I'm Josh. I am Daniel's brother, older brother. I'm a professional TV production and aspiring screenwriter out here in Los Angeles. And so me and Daniel both love film, so we get together and talk all the time. And we would have had this discussion anyway, but we thought we'd share it with you guys. Again, go follow him on his channel. I think I have a channel, but I don't post anything on it, so there wouldn't be much reason to follow me.
But you have Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, if you do feel like following me, it's on Twitter. It's Psycho Mountain Man. There's no H in Psycho, and Mountain is shortened down to MT. So it's
links will be below.
Yeah, we'll put links in. We'll put links. You can also find me Instagram. What's my Instagram name? I can't remember.
I think it's the same thing.
I think it's the same thing. It's just the full thing.
It's just Full Mountain, I think.
Yeah, it's just Full Mountain. So it's the same thing. Psycho Mountain, Full Mountain, an abbreviated mountain. You can find me on Instagram there. Those are really the only two social things. I don't do much on Twitter, but I do more on Instagram. So if you want to see random things around LA, it's fun.
Yeah. And if y'all like this, we may do this again for X-Men Apocalypse. Or since my channel is very much comics related, we're probably just going to stick to comics. Or who knows? Maybe we'll even do other movies or such, like Star Wars or something. When Rogue One comes out. Is that coming out this year or next?
Rogue One comes out in December for Star Wars.
This December.
I am so looking forward to that. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Oh my God. We got a trailer. Oh, that trailer. I got a big trailer for that. That was so cool. Oh,
that soundtrack gets me, dude, because it's that Force Jedi theme laid over top of the Imperial theme. It just gets me.
Yeah.
And honestly, that siren too. That siren, the Death Star. A lot of people found that to be annoying. I actually loved it. So
yeah. I don't know. I think it's one of those things where it really works on a big screen, where it's it kind of comes out of nowhere on the if you're watching it on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So, I guess that wraps things up. So until next time, see you later. Stay valiant.